Hey everyone, Mitch over here. And this is my review of the Canon Supermini Narrow Kerf 28-inch 325 50 gauge bar. So I've been running this thing for about 8 or 9 days, and I absolutely love it. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about this bar. Look up the specs on Canon's website. It's actually a really interesting bar. So if you can tell, it's a bit differently shaped than your normal run-of-the-mill bar. So the tip is 1 3/4 inches. It's narrow. It's narrower in the kerf. This way. Skinny. Narrow kerf. I think they said it's, I forget, is it 10, 15% narrower overall? 5%? I don't remember. I gotta look at the specs myself again. Anyway, check them out. You can find out all the accurate information about this bar, but this is my review on how it handles in the woods. So, this is a 28-inch. It runs a little short. I think without dogs, you'll get 25 inches of cutting length. Now, with the West Coast saw dogs, you get about 23, but for the wood I'm cutting, it's perfect. It's really balanced well. It's a pound, pardon me. It's 3.24 pounds on my digital scale that I use to weigh it on. Hopefully that's accurate. It's accurate enough for me. So it weighs about as much as a 32-inch steel light bar. But I don't know what the deal is with it. Like how it's shaped down, somehow you line up the cuts every time. Every time it's like natural. It balances perfectly on a 572. It's a little more tip heavy on a steel, but the 572, it's perfect. So I run the insert in the rear, and the cool thing about Canon is they've got a longer bar stud groove, so you don't have to do any grinding. You don't have to grind it out for the Husky mount, because this is a steel mounted bar. You get the Canon insert that you put over the bar studs, and it fits this. You don't have to do any grinding, and you can run the specified lengths on the chain. Really handy, really nice. I've, like I said, 8 or 9 days on this. It's losing paint, but I've put it through hell. I'm not terribly hard on my bars, but I'm not easy on them either. So, like, if I got a cut, like a cookie cut that I think is most of the way cut through, I'll give it a little pry and tweak and see if it'll pop off there without having to cut into the dirt or something. It's held up. I have set numerous trees down on this, got it pinched in the cut pretty bad. You can look down there. It's for the most part straight. There's a little tip, just a touch bent on the tip right here. I haven't noticed any performance loss. If I stick it in a cut and pry on it, I'll probably straighten it back out, but it's not messing anything up, so I'm leaving it as is. I really like it. Like, Gordy hooked me up with his bar. He got some. I got this one. It's a long wait through Canon. So, Gordy from West Coast Saw, if you're all wondering who the Gordy I'm talking about is. I got the 325 variant. He got a 32, I think in 325 and 3/8. Garrett Austin, Stepping to the Deep for on Instagram, runs one in 32. He's converted over to 32 with these because he absolutely loves the 325. Now you're all thinking, okay, I read on the website that it says 60cc and under. It's recommended by the manufacturer, 60cc and under. I've only been running this. I haven't ran this on my 400 yet, which is the only 66cc saw that I have. I've ran this on the 572 and the 661. My 500i is in the shop and it hasn't seen this bar yet. 661, not a hiccup. It hasn't bent itself in half because the max amount of torque and power from that saw. It's held up great. I've had this mostly, so out of the 8 or 9 days, I've had this all but one day on the 572, built by Leave Nothing Stock. So it's a strong build. I think it's cranking out 7.5 horsepower. 72cc stock motor with mods. It's done great. I cannot say enough good about this bar. I don't have a qualm about this yet, being 8 or 9 days in. I don't. The only thing that has happened, which to me it's not a big deal, because when I get home I just smack it on the anvil, but so this is an 1 3/4 tip. I have had, it's spinning a lot, keep that in mind. I have had the rivets loosen just a tad so you get a little bit of tip wobble, but that's it. I just put it on my anvil with a ball peen hammer, tightens it right up. I haven't noticed any significant heating issues in the tip. The paint that's coming off, it's your normal wear and tear. It's not due to heat. My oilers are turned up all the way. This is pumping a significant amount of oil through this groove. It's not bluing, it's just wear. I love this bar. This is the only bar I want to run. I'm ruined. I don't want to run any other bar besides this one. In 325, which is what I'm solely running on this, because that's what I've completely turned over to for the most part. It just does everything that I want perfectly. So my cutting style is a little different than everyone else for the most part. I like back barring a lot because of body position. So if I come in one side, I flip it over and your angles are the same. I'm going to do a video on that at some point so I can explain exactly what I'm talking about, but the short version is I back bar a lot. I back bar face cuts, I back bar back cuts. I am all about keeping my body position neutral to cut down on fatigue and just all around lining everything up better, because there's a formula to it. But anyway, this works really well for that. And since it's fatter in the middle and narrower on the tip in the back, you don't tend to cut your far side off as easy because it's slightly swooped back. Now you're going to think, okay, well that's going to misalign my cuts if I'm trying to sight something in. It doesn't. I haven't run into any issues with I'm off on my aim because it's got a fatter stomach and smaller tips. Somehow it just works out. I don't use my sights a whole lot anymore. They're just kind of a glancing point. I just kind of know where the saw is, and I just kind of look down the bar. I don't use sights anymore unless I'm really trying to be accurate. So everything lines up right. It hasn't thrown. I didn't have to get used to it. There was no like, okay, this is a new bar with new angles. I'm going to have to, kind of learn it. It was just automatically good. It's hard to explain. You'd have to try it. I've never run into a bar that's been this nice to use. I mean, you get the light bars and they're like, okay, cool. It's light, it's this, it's that, it's balanced, it's sturdy, it's tough. But it's still just your normal shaped bar. Well, this one, it's really just kind of makes things flow smoother. You'd have to try it to understand it. But I 100% recommend this bar. I've put it through hell in the first week and a couple days that I've had it, and it's stood the test so far. Garrett Austin, Step Into the Deep, said he's already gone through a tip, but he's also said he's notoriously hard on bars and their tips. So we'll see how long mine's going to go for. I need to order some because this is the only one I've got. And I would be really sad if I smoke this tip out and have to go back to the other bars I run. Cowlitz River Rigging out of Washington State. I've talked with him on Instagram, the owner, and he says he's going to stock this specific bar in 28 and 32. You can just buy it however you want. If you buy it in 3/8 50 gauge, if you want to run 3/8 on it and you got a 325 bar, you're like, I don't know if I like 325. You just swap the tip. You just pop the rivets out and swap the tip. You don't have to buy a whole nother bar. So if he only had 3/8 bars in and I needed another bar, all I have to do is pop the tip out and I'm golden. You don't have to buy a whole new bar unless you want two different bars. bars. I mean, it's never bad to have more than, 3 or 4 bars, just in case you have a bad week. Yeah, you just pop the tip. As long as you got the right tip that matches the bar, you slap that on there and you can run 3/8 or 325 as long as it's still the same gauge. The Canon is a little more expensive. I think these run $250, $300, $150. I don't know. I forget. They're a little more on the pricey side, but worth it. If you struggle with a bar and you're like, it's cheap, but I'm gonna make it work, it slows your productivity down terribly. If you get a good bar, like I've noticed my production pick up because of this bar. It's hard to explain. It just feels right and it fits right for my cutting style. Now, whether this is, you try it and you're like, I didn't like those bars, they just weren't for me, that's fine. But for me, in my cutting technique and style, this is the one. This is like the precious, if you will. My precious. I recommend trying it out. If you can find them, they're really hard to come by. If you look on Bailey's, they don't even list the narrow Kerf bar. This is the Supermini narrow Kerf. They have a Supermini bar, but it's not the narrow Kerf. I think the design might be the same, but it's the thicker bar. They're 9 to 12 months out on Bailey's online. I haven't checked with Madson's. With Cowlitz, that's who I'm going to run with these bars. Cowlitz River Rigging. They said they're 90 days out, but it's varied to change. I mean, it all depends how fast Canon can pump these out. I imagine they're going to be a little more demand, thanks to the popularity of me testing them and other guys testing them and getting the word out there that this is just an awesome bar. Try it in 3/8, try it in 325, and see what you think. I have not tuned this at all yet. I'm feeling no burrs. There is a little bit of wear right as it comes on to where the sprocket picks up the chain, just a little bit, just barely, but it doesn't have a bevel on it. It's just kind of worn in just a tad. No bevel on the outside, so the steel is really strong steel. It's not your normal, you run it a couple days and you got these big burrs you got to file off the sides. I love this bar for the 27th time already. I highly recommend it. If you're looking for something new, maybe something to help you with your style a little bit better, I think this might be the one for you in either 3/8 or 325. 325 cuts super fast and it's super smooth. That's why I'm running it. I run the steel 23RS chain. On a 20-inch bar, you get about 6 or 7 more teeth per that versus 3/8 in full comp. It's a pro chain, and I ran it on my 661, my 500i, 572s, my 400, and 462 as well before I crushed it. I haven't broke a chain, and I've gone through about, well, not gone through, but I had at one point about a dozen chains for it. I'm working 3 chains right now, and I'm almost down to the bones on one of them. So I've got a lot of time on big saws in 325, and it's held up. The reason why you might snap a chain on either 3/8 or 325 is your sprocket. Change those sprockets. The techs at Oregon say you should change your sprocket every 1 to 2 chains-ish. And the only time I've broken 2 chains within the last 3 years, and each time my sprocket was farther gone than it should have been. There's a whole science behind it. It wears the bottom of your links out. You don't notice it because it's just uniform all the way around. Your sprocket is why you're snapping chains. It's not the power of your saw. I am on my 325 adventure since early March of this year, and it's August, day after tomorrow or whatever. So yeah, I've got a lot of time on 325, and it's stood the test of time. Haven't snapped a single chain. I've lost a couple rakers and teeth here and there, but you hit stuff, so that's normal. Anyway, back to the Canon bar. Give it a shot. I think you'll like it. get your order in now if you want one within a few months, unless you can find one on like eBay or whatever. I recommend this saw. I recommend this bar. It's only Monday and it's been a long week. I tell you, it catches up with you. Love the bar. I've got 2 more on order. This is the only bar I ever want to run, and I hope they don't discontinue these in my lifetime because I love it. This is Mitch Zanobi. I hope you found this informative and give her a shot.